Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Well, welcome to Matchbox March, episode 12, the final conclusion. So it's Matchbox March concludes today. Now, I am recording this in mid-March. I fear that by the time you get to see this, it's going to be the end of March, if not April, early April quite possibly. Because there's just been a lot of episodes and a lot of stuff to see, and you can't cram it all into a few days because it just gets too much for people. It's too much for me. Whew, I'm exhausted, to be quite honest with you. But anyway, so today we're looking at the green and the brown range. Now, I've only got some examples of both. I've only got one example of the brown range. I did have quite a big collection. I had Flying Fortress, Lancaster, and what was the other one? I was at Privateer, and I sold them. Foolishly sold them some years ago. Not to worry. I did acquire the Dauntless fairly recently in the green range. I had the Spitfire and the Messerschmitt for some time, but I thought this was a good opportunity for us to sort of just take a step back. Now, I haven't. It's not my intention to show every Matchbox kit. I don't want to have or own every Matchbox kit, genuinely. I mean, if I saw a particularly mint example, I might go for it, but I don't want to have them for the sake of ticking a box or having them for just to brag about it or whatever. It's not like that. It's the ones that I really like. I mean, most of the ones I have are the ones I really wanted to get, and they're mainly, and this is really the essence of what the shows have been about. It's about somebody said it better than I did. Somebody, I think at least two people made this comment recently. Said, watching your shows is a bit like a time machine for me. It transports me back to the mid-70s, basically, the early mid-70s. And that really is the intention here. It's to, and the reason I like to have these in mint condition, it's not because, okay, I'm a bit OCD, yes I am, but it's really more to do with the fact that I want to have them as I remember them when I bought them new. That's what it's really about. And that's why most of the examples, of vast majority, about 80-85% of what I've got, are almost absolutely mint. They're certainly as you'd expect to see them in the shop window, you know. Some of them actually have been in the shop window. They want to fade. But anyway, so yeah, it's really about having a bit of you know, we live in troubled times today. I think we live in a world that's become overly complicated, overly self-absorbed, self-obsessed. People get wound up about silly, insignificant things. People focus on what divides us instead of what unites us. The world has not got better since the mid-70s. Technology's got better, sure. You know, you can argue things like cars have got better and watches and all sorts of technical things. You know, iPhones. But is that really a quantitative quality of life improvement, this thing? Because I've got one of these, I've got two actually, and I've got, 3 iPads, you know. Cars with lots of electronics in them. I'm not sure they improve the quality of life. Do you need a car, for example, and I'm going off a slight tangent here, but do you need a car that tells you that you're drifting into another lane? Because if you're not competent and cognitive enough to know that, then you shouldn't be behind the wheel of a 2-ton, 80 mile an hour, 70 mile an hour killing machine. I find it incredible that the way that we're pandering to a sort of culture of, because we can do something, we must automatically do it because it can be done, and it's like chasing technology and constantly. I mean, we all know where this is not a joke either. We all know where this leads to. It's Rise of the Machines, the Terminator, isn't it? And we all know what happened at the end of that film. You know, nuclear war triggered by the machines, and that's probably what will happen if we don't take a step back from all this nonsense. You know, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos recently, in the last couple of videos. You know, this will take a lot of us back to a childhood that is lost to children today. You know, you don't see children. Yes, you do see some. I've been very struck though in recent times at Telford. I'm sure the last year or two that there's been less and less kids making models. You know, Airfix have got this great, much to be commended service where they have these tables where you can, for no charge, you can go and make a small starter set Airfix kit. You know. And that's really good that they do that, and that's exactly what we need to encourage more of. Because, you know, it's sad to say, but us guys, I mean, I was at a funeral a few days ago, relative of a good friend of mine, and yeah, it just brings it home to you that we're not going to be around forever. You know, I'm not trying to bring it down and depress anybody, but this hobby was passed from father to son for generation after generation, and it's kind of being lost now because we now have youngsters are obsessed with technology. I know there's problems in schools. There's a lot of talk about in the UK that they're going to ban phones in schools, which is probably not a bad thing during class time anyway. No child needs to be communicating with a parent or anybody else when they're in the middle of class, unless there is some pressing health and safety concern, which that's just frankly an excuse I think for most people. So I'm not trying to get my high horse and get to politics either, but I really want to just say that why do people like me and many of you watching this video, why do we hang on to these things? Why are we so joyful when we see these Matchbox kits in particular? And I think the reason is it's a bygone era now, and it's a better past than the current, present, and the future seems to be holding. And I think it's a great shame that we have a society that doesn't value skills and craft skills. We seem to have dropped all that, by and large. It's no longer appreciated. We go to Telford and we look at each other's models and we gasp in absolute admiration. And obviously on YouTube as well, some people admire my meagre efforts, and I certainly admire a lot of other people's work, and I see it on the Flory forum as well. Stunning work. But I just get the feeling that we're all getting older and that this has not been passed on, and this is becoming I think the YouTube and the internet has given this hobby a sort of second lease of life, but I'm not convinced even that is helping to bring in a new generation. And I think it's by explaining what is special about these kits, especially Matchbox for me, I think that we've lost that, and we don't really have, we almost need another Matchbox in the 21st century to come up and to make that appeal to young people, to get them interested in modelling. However, before we do that, we've got to get them interested in history, I think, because the two things are kind of connected, aren't they? I don't think a lot of us would have been so keen on making these models if we weren't so keen on history and the fact that we were brought up. I've talked about this in the past actually, about I was a big fan of the Warlord magazine, and there was Victor and Hotspur and all this kind of thing. Comics, some say, people today would say it glorifies war. Okay, there may be a tiny element of truth in that, but it also was very educational, and it taught you a lot about history, and it's very important. And this is why I get very upset when we talk about the German National Socialist symbol, which I see nothing good about National Socialism or any kind of socialism, come to that, but I won't get into politics. But I don't see anything to be admired, but because I don't admire it doesn't mean I want to delete it. You cannot delete history. You cannot delete the Imperial Japanese Empire. You can't delete the Nazis. There's so many things. You can't delete them because you don't like them. That just breeds ignorance, and I think that's a very dangerous thing for the future. And I think this is the problem. I think kids today, don't. I meet people who, even in the modelling community, and I'm thinking, well, I probably know more than perhaps the average modeller does, but I meet people with much greater knowledge, and they come on my channel sometimes and correct me. There's always somebody with greater knowledge, but that's to be admired. That's something we should encourage more of. Knowledge about history. I find it fascinating. I watch a lot of historical YouTube channels. I'm sure many of you do. I know people like Stuart and Dave and other people I know well on the channel. They love that kind of stuff, and I do too. But I really think that we need to embrace history, the good and the bad, because it's only by embracing history and understanding history that we can make sure that the world doesn't repeat stupid mistakes. And I do see that even today in the recent developments to do with Ukraine and elsewhere, where there's a real danger of history being repeated, and the stupidest mistakes of history could happen all over again. And again, I'm not going to get into the politics of either side or whatever, but I just think that this is a generational loss of, almost a loss of integrity, but certainly a loss of knowledge, and like a cultural ignorance is spreading, and people don't know the facts. People rant and rave about all manner of things and injustices in the world. Because of an injustice 200 or 300 years ago, they think that people should be punished today for something like that they've never had any involvement in whatsoever, or knowledge of, or don't approve of. You can't rewrite history. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. You just can't. Anyway, I've gone on a bit of a rant there, slightly at a tangent. Now let's get back to Matchbox kits. I think the thing that was so incredible about Matchbox and has been lost since they're gone, and I kind of I blame Revell for this. I know that they have issues with the German symbols. That I can understand because of the legal requirements they have to operate under. That I respect in Germany. I don't agree with it, but I respect it. But what I don't agree with is the way that they have sort of tried to screw the customers, and overcharging and not looking after the legacy of Matchbox. Even when they've got the moles, I think the legacy of Matchbox could have been better served under another owner. We sometimes knock the Macau ownership in the 80s, but at least they kept things going with the coloured kits. They dropped the stands, unfortunately, which was very unfortunate, but that's because, of course, the name of Lesney was in the stand, and that was the company that had gone. I'm sure they could have got round that, though, by tackling the tooling in a clever and skillful way. That could have been removed, that name, I'm sure. Anyway. But the wider issue I'm complaining about is the way that Revell, for example, have dropped the multicolours. And I think that has lost something, and that has made it less attractive to children. I never claimed that Matchbox were the most sophisticated kits in the world. That would be absurd, of course. I'm being quite serious now. Despite all my bonhomie and joking and all the rest of it. Yeah, they're not Tamiya, but they had an ability to pull in new, young, fresh minds, and to then make those minds thirsty for and hungry for more knowledge, and move on to all sorts of other things in life, to study history, maybe going into politics or going into military service or all sorts of things. And some very wholesome elements of this hobby that Matchbox really almost uniquely encouraged has kind of been lost, I think, since Matchbox have been gone. This is why I'm so evangelistic about the early Matchbox kits, because I think they represent the very best of that ability to appeal to serious modelers and also kids. And I think that no other company has ever encapsulated that as well. Airfix was the closest, I think. Maybe Frog as well in the 70s. But not really anybody since has been able to bridge that gap between the older and the younger modelers, and to make the link, or to bridge the gap between toys and serious models. And Matchbox managed to do that. They brought in the younger kids because it was almost slightly toy-like in appearance because of the colours, really. And yet their quality of moulding and the fit and finish and the way the kits went together did appeal to more intermediate modelers and even advanced models, especially with the kits I'm going to show you today. So I just wanted to sort of have my little fourpenneth about, I alluded to this in one of the other videos about, I don't think that children today are having a better childhood than we did, we of this certain generation. And I'm not saying this because I'm getting older and, mortality creeps upon all of us and all the rest of it. It's not because of that, actually. It's actually, I'm being completely objective. I would not want to be back in that sort of age 7, 8, 9 today, and I think that's very sad in a way, because I'd love to be younger again. I'm fairly young at heart. People always call me, people say this to me all the time in the comments on YouTube. They call me young man, and I find this quite amusing. Yeah, I'm not as young as you think I am. But I'm very young at heart, and I think that's the most important thing of all. And I actually put that down to, obviously some of it's genetic and character and all the rest of it, but Matchbox is also quite a big chunk of the pie that has shaped my young mind to be forever young. If that's a slight exaggeration, I know, but you know what I mean. I have an attitude that's forever young. And many of us in this hobby, I think the two things that you do see in people, you see these old men, but many of them are forever young in their minds, and they're still kids at heart, you know, which I think is great. And that's the way to be in life, if you can. You know, there's plenty of time to grow old and sort of die, but if you take pleasure in things, small things in life, you know, this is not, it's not a fancy house or a flashy sports car. This is something that almost pocket money on these, a little bit more than pocket money, but these are more a birthday present or a Christmas present, I guess, or they were. Well, now you'd be looking to pay under £50 for a good one of these. But you know what I mean. It's like they keep you young, and it brings back that pleasure of a bygone era, not a vintage era, just a loss. Something has been lost, I think, and it's not just in the UK I'm speaking of. I think there's a lost art of simple things being enjoyed, and there is a lost art of simple pleasures bringing a smile to people's face without constantly picking this up every 5 minutes. And having to refer to it and being ruled by it, you know. He says, and he's got a message from somebody. It's actually one of the viewers. I am as guilty as anybody of spending far too much time on YouTube, for example. And most of what I watch is actually either to do with cars or models or history. Those are the three things I tend to spend a lot of time on. And I think I'm spending far too much time doing that in life, far too much, and not enough modelling, and not enough doing the things I'm talking about now. And I'm going to be changing that a little bit. I've said this before. Matchbox March has got in the way of that. I hope that you will see that, and I hope you'll agree that it was worth it. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'm going to go through these in a minute, so don't worry, I'm not just going to keep rambling on. But I just wanted to connect with people and say there is nothing wrong with enjoying your childhood again, reliving your childhood, and that's what we've been doing, I think, a lot of us. And there is nothing wrong with, even as men in their 50s, 60s or 70s and older, enjoying these things. There's nothing childish about it. These things are the people that created them from the artists, you know, Roy Huxley we've talked about, Doug Post and Roy Cross for Airfix. Absolute geniuses, you know, trendsetters, trailblazers, legends, frankly. I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I would say if you put me on the spot and said, what is the single biggest motivation and draw for you buying these models, it was the artwork on the box, for sure. Yeah, because they are just a load of plastic inside at the end of the day. But they were so, and this is where they were superior to Airfix, because they even had the nice graphics on the back in colour. You know, not on these particular types that we have in front of us here, but all the rest of the ranges do, of course. It's just colourful, it's bright, they show historical events, they stir the imagination. Yes, there's some violence, yes, there's some unpleasant regimes using these aircraft and vehicles and things. But that's not the point. You learn. This is a learning experience. You cannot wrap your kids up in cotton wool. I mean, there's plenty of you out there that have got kids. I haven't, but there's lots of you that have. You can't wrap them up in cotton wool. They need to understand, you know, that there are bad things happening in the world, and you cannot avoid them. You can't give first prize to everybody on school sports day. You just can't. It's just stupid, you know. You can't give first prize to every Formula One driver. No, that's not the way it works. You have to strive hard. You know, I don't think I'm as good a model maker as Phil Flory or Night Shift, you know, Martin Kovac or anybody like that, or Spencer Pollard. It doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter. I get great pleasure from doing it. I know a lot of you are the same. Don't think that you have to be world champion or you are nothing, because that is foolish, and that is, in a way, that's the way the world has gone. It's almost like if you're not a world champion, you're nothing. So we give everybody first prize. That's a load of rubbish, you know. Just be satisfied that you did something nice, that it looks nice when you finished it. You've seen lots of my finished kits. Just enjoy what you've done and take pleasure in simple things. And I think if we all do that a little bit more, we'll all have a lot more happiness in our lives. whatever age you are, doesn't really matter. Was it? I always forget the name of the golfer. I always say, was it Langer? Anyway, I'm sure it was one of them. The famous golfers famously said this comment, which is very true. True now as it ever was in the 70s. And he said about the pressures of professional golfing as a professional sportsman. He said the problem is people forget what they're doing and they're being paid huge sums of money to do something that is very, very pleasant as a pastime. And it makes them superstars. And he said what they should never forget is don't forget to smell the flowers. Enjoy the ride, in other words. Enjoy. Don't be worrying about, I've not, like me, with my mosquito, I've been at it a year and I've got almost nowhere. Doesn't matter. I've enjoyed what I've done on that mosquito, even though I've made little progress. I have got the excuse of having the YouTube channel, which eats a lot of time. But it doesn't matter what you do in life. It doesn't matter whether you're a golfer or a racing driver or, you're a bin man. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Just take simple pleasure in simple things. Enjoy life. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't try and compete with other people. There's no point. Just get something out like these that bring a bit of fun back into life. And let's stop worrying about, what happened 400 years ago. There's far too much of this in the world. We've had problems like this all over the world. Yes, there are people who have come from parts of the world that have been oppressed and all that kind of thing. All we can do in our lives is to treat each other with respect and fairness. And if we do that and treat each other with total equality, there's no problem. We don't need to have supremacy of one group over another, whoever they are. Colour, creed, race, religion, doesn't matter. No. Treat everyone with equal respect and we will have a better world. Anyway, I think my world was made better was with Matchbox kits. So let's have a look at the final four I'm going to show you today. Some of my favourites. Now there is another favourite which I haven't got, and I'll put a link over here at the end. And it's the green range. It's the Matchbox Lysander in 32nd scale. So I'll put a link so you can have a look at that because I did review it about a year ago. In the meantime, I think we're going to start today with the Stranraer. As I say, don't forget, after my little speech there, went a bit off script there, didn't I? Oops. No, it's just that I can see people. I can see the pleasure that these have brought to people. The comments I'm getting, and so many stories about people buying these things with their pocket money, and how their mum bought them for them, or their dad did, and they got it for Christmas, and this, that, and the other. And it's just so like my own experience, and I think there's so many of us where you can see that people miss that simpler life. They didn't have to have an iPhone for Christmas. That's just going to bring a lot more problems. I talked about kids getting bullied in the classroom, kids getting bullied in their own home because people have got access to communicate with them. Things were simpler then. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have mobile phones, and some of us didn't have phones. When Matchbox first came out, I don't think we had a phone in the house. I think it was just maybe a year later. We weren't any worse off for it. The pace of life was simpler. We found ways to entertain ourselves that were very enjoyable and wholesome, and we learned and educated ourselves as well. And it was entertaining. And that's what I hope this series has been for you. So let's crack in. Final episode then. Now I've had my little speech at the beginning. I wasn't intending to make that speech actually. Just sort of, it's just the comments that people have made. And I can see it's brought a lot of pleasure to people. Matchbox in particular seems to bring out the best in people, I think. It was Airfix. You could argue it was kind of like Airfix, but cleaner, simpler and more fun. Easier to work on, less challenging for the beginner or the youngster. And that really has been lost. There's nothing quite like that today, really. Airfix have got close to it with their starter sets. Give them credit where it's due. They have filled in some of that gap. They have the starter set with the glue and the paints and things. I don't really rate those paints they use. They're humble paints. Anyway, but yeah, it would be really nice if they could think again. I've said before, and I keep repeating this, and many of you have commented with the same thought. We need stands. The thing that made Matchbox so brilliant, especially those cheap purple range, the pocket money kits, they had a stand for the aircraft, and the little vehicles had a diorama with them, and that really was the icing on the cake. Nothing has ever really matched that or beaten it. This made youngsters excited, enthused. It gave you everything you needed to create a little story or a scene from it, and that's been lost. That's been lost. So I would say to Airfix in particular, and Revell have got no excuse because they've got the original. I'd say to Revell, clean up the moulds, because every newer Revell, even some of the late ones I've got under the Revell ownership, you can see they've not been looking after those moulds very well, the Matchbox moulds, and they're getting very, very flashy, very poor. You didn't see that, did you, in most of the ones I've shown you? Hardly any flash at all. I mean, less than 1% of the kits probably have had flash in them. So Revell, get your act together, please. I know they're making advances in some areas, so I don't want to be too negative about them. They're improving, which is much needed. But I think they need to think about the Matchbox. They need to think about the way that the popularity of these videos and the joy it brings to people, and just the joy and the passion that people have for Matchbox kits generally. You know, very few people have a bad word to say about them, especially if they are of a certain age and they grew up with them. Everybody respects what they represented, which was just a whole pile of fun and enjoyment. And I wish we could just have Revell and Airfix in particular rethink their approach to the younger market to try and engage with them. They seem to be obsessed with, especially Airfix, social media. Yes, I understand why that's necessary for them as a business, yeah. But that's not enough on its own, I don't think. I think they need to make things more appealing, more enjoyable, and really get these kids back to wanting to build model kits. And if you can get the kids to want to build model kits, as they grow up, they're going to buy a lot of them. You know, I must have bought thousands in my life. Well, I've got a stash of about 400 now. Anyway, let's move on. The wife may have heard that, and she's slipped out there. Let's start with the Stranraer, which is one of the later ones from Matchbox. And this is, when I say from Matchbox, most of what I've talked about with the Matchbox kits has been the original Lesney kits, and this is an original Lesney kit, but one of the very late ones. It's actually got the, I'm saying that, it's got some Chinese writing on it, which never bodes well. I'm pretty sure that it was 78, so this is when they were trying to get into the China and Japanese markets, but they were still owned by Lesney. Excuse me, by Lesney. So this is almost the last generation of the true Lesney kits, one of the last. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move our beautiful Spitfire, Hong Kong Spitfire, and we're going to pop the old Messerschmitt 109. We'll get to them in a minute, because I know many of you have had those kits. Let's zoom in and have a look at this, and I'll try and stick to the script this time. For God's sake, just show us the plastic and shut up, that's what people say to me sometimes. Okay, here we go. So Stranraer then, Supermarine Stranraer, fantastic seaplane. As you can see on the side, it's quite big. It's going to be, yeah, it's going to be quite significant, this one, when you build it. It also comes with a little like a trolley dolly thing that it sits on when it's at the Southampton docks. This side we've got a little write up from all. We've got Stranraer, based in Scotland in July 1940 to April 41. A silvery one at Pembroke Dock in 1937 to 38, and then we've got 208 Squadron, Mountbatten, Plymouth, England, December 38 to 39, which is all silver, which is very nice. So let's have a look at this then. So this is a Mark 1 boxing for this particular kit. It is, yes. Now this was sent to me. This was a fantastic gift, which was sent to me by a gentleman called Lewis Fredrickson from Canberra, New South Wales. Amazing. If he's watching, thank you very much again, Lewis. You see what I was saying in my other video about, was it episode 10? I was saying, why don't you donate some kits to me? But they've got to be mint, mind. Got to be mint. Only mint condition will do, really. But Lewis Fredrickson, not only did he give up this kit, which is worth, I don't know, £35–40, easy, but he sent it right the way across the world, which wasn't cheap either, and I really do appreciate it. But at least he gets the benefit of me bringing this out as an example of an absolutely superb kit from Matchbox on a fairly regular basis. I'm saying that is open, yes it is open. I bring it out on a fairly regular basis, so he still gets to see the kit that he owned on the big screen, so to speak. Well, depends on what screen you're actually watching it on. Some people watch it on TV. I know John Fogo does. He's another one who sent me some kits, isn't he? And he always says, "Oh, Peter, I can't comment on the chat. Doesn't work very well on the telly," which I can fully appreciate. Mine's the same. All right then. So very quickly, let's get into this and have a look at the Supermarine Stranraer. Something a bit different. Something a bit scary to build, this one, because it's got a lot of rigging. Ouch. So this is actually the colour plan. This is this nice system they have for the bigger kits where you have a separate colour plan. We have a little bit of a write-up on the back. Whoops. For daisies. So let me just zoom back for a second. There we go. Let's go back on the zoom and I'll just read you the script. Keeps that a script, dude. Stranraer was designed by Reginald J. Mitchell, who designed the Spitfire, of course, and the Snyder Trophy winner that won the seaplane race. It was one of the long series of reconnaissance flying boats built by Supermarine for the Royal Air Force, and it entered service in 1936. That's better. The experience gained by Supermarine with the Southampton and the Scapa patrol boats was put to good use in the development of the Stranraer, which included many improvements, particularly the all-metal structure. The Stranraer proved to be an effective addition to the RAF at the time, and many were built in Canada, using the American engines instead. However, by the beginning of World War II, it had mainly been replaced operationally, although they continued to be used until 1942. In fact, examples of this excellent and graceful aircraft were still being flown long after the end of the war. I think really they kind of replaced it with the Walrus, didn't they? That's one aircraft of the same era, really. Anyway, this is our colour plan, so let's have a little zoom in on this. So you get the three options. It's a shame that the colour plan isn't actually in colour. That would have been nice, but okay. So yeah, not much to say about it really. As I say, it's not in colour, but it does tell you which colours to use based on the Humbrol paints. And on the back, there's your silvery one. So that's that. Then we've got our instructions and decals. Oh, okay. PK551, PK601. Looks like they had a number change. How interesting. Check this out. That's rather odd. A little addendum. So what does it say? It says on the side 601. I think it was PK551. Perhaps they had a clash or there was a mistake made. Very interesting, that, isn't it? Then we've got some decals which probably past their prime a little bit, but they're not too bad. They haven't discoloured, I have to say. Yeah, they look decent. How they work, that's another matter. We've got our small parts paint guide here, and it's nice and big on this. We've got nice big clear information. Obviously you've got your pilot, some of your pulley work, what looks like a Vickers gun, I think it is there. And then we've got the trolley it's used on the dock side with various propeller options, optional different finishes depending on which version. Yeah, 1, 2 or 3 version have got different propeller paint jobs, and then a little bit of interior colour there. So we have got, I'll just go back a tad for this. So we've got basically putting in your pilot. You've got 3 bulkheads and quite a few windows in this as well, actually, to put in. And we then move on to our top and bottom wings. Got to build up your engine nacelles because you have like an inboard wing section that houses the nacelles in the centre. And then we've got a gun turret at the back, it would seem. Is it a gun turret? Sorry, I'm just a bit perplexed by that. Seems to be a turret, or is it not a turret? Maybe it's not. We'll see when we get to the plastic what that is. It just looks like a gun turret, doesn't it? Here. I think it's an option for having a gun turret or a observation point port. And you've got your tail planes, which are quite interesting. Just remind me slightly of the P-38 Lightning, that does, in the style of it. And then you've got to bring all that together, and you've got all these big cabane struts which are supporting your main top to bottom wing. And yeah, it looks quite rudimentary when you do it like this, but I've seen people building this up and then rigging it, and then it gets a bit more complicated. No, yeah, it is a gun turret. It's just that it's not really tackled until later. Okay, so we've got the floats going out on the wing, under the wings. You've got your trolley for your handling on the dry dock and on concrete. And then indeed you actually have a gun emplacement at the back. Okay, let's just zoom in on this. So I was right, it has got a gun turret. I'm sure it was. You can tell I haven't built this one. So it's got three. It's got one at the back, one at the front, and then this one I was looking at that's 2/3 of the way back. Wow, it's well armed then. And then there are slightly different versions where it doesn't, and it just has like an observation window, circular window. So that's interesting. And then it would seem that it's got another option here where it doesn't have a gun at the front. So you've got to decide which version you're going to do. Version 1, got all the guns, that's the one I like. Version 2, it's got no guns apart from the rear. So that's probably more of a patrol, UK patrol boat. And then you've got this third one, where it's just got them at the back and the centre. And then finally, you've got a set of ladders and your ground handling trolley, dolly, whatever you want to call it. And then it says PK551 here. Interesting, very interesting. Nice instructions there, they're pretty clear. Quite interesting looking aircraft, isn't it? Whether I'm good enough to tackle one of these, I don't know. Still haven't tackled wings yet. I'm a coward. Not too much of a chicken. Let's have a look at what we got then. Oh, and remember I was given this as a gift, so it's very kind of this gentleman Lewis to send this to me. Whoops, there's a few items off the sprue and he's put them in bags. Again, very kindly. So I'll have a look at these wings, which are a little bit delicate, so bear with me. I'll have to move the box from the background, otherwise I think it's going to cause issues with focus. Okay, there we go. So here we are. We got our wings with lots of sort of stretch fabric over the spars, you can see. A nice stretch fabric effect. You've got your elevators, same again. They look nice, don't they? That's actually very nice. And the usual clean, very clean Matchbox tooling and moulding. Now look at this, there's some very fine parts here but there's no flash. So you've got your trolley system and then you've got all your various bits of rigging and you've got those the trolley dolly wheels. So that's that one. Then we've got some mushy pea green. They do like that mushy pea green, don't they? I'll show you this one first. This is the mushy pea green. This is the main fuselage on the port side, which looks pretty nice, got to say. Quite nicely finished. And there's your water hull stroke keel. And then the rest of it, of course, is over here. Your starboard side, which has got the main entry door. And lots of quite impressive detail actually around the sort of hull area where the fixings are. You got your tailplanes here and here. And this is this gun mount stroke turret that I was a bit perplexed by, and comes with a little window option. And then you've got your nacelles for your engines. Here's your floats, water floats. And you've got some cowlings there for your engines as well. It's in 4 colours, by the way. There's 4 colours. Holy moly. Now you are spoiling us. Now we've got a few parts off the sprue, which I think I should show you now. Just bear with me a second. Let's get these out. So there's a couple of parts. There's some of the interior here. And we've got the elevators. And they actually come in 2 parts. Look. Be careful, Peter. Putting those together, it starts to look like you are, in fact, building this kit. Good God Almighty! I'll build it! It's far too valuable to do that. This is an original boxing. I know there's a few items off the sprue, but it's a almost mint box, mint instructions. Beautiful condition, really, and no charge to me. I can't build it. Build it. It'd be sacrilege. You never go to heaven if you keep building these Irreplaceable. Yeah, never to be made again. My job is to be a custodian for this. It's like burning up the world's resources building these Matchbox kits. It is a sin. A sin! I do go on about it, don't I? But look at the way they go together. Look at that. It's perfect. You get a first class join every time. Absolutely brilliant. What is there not to like there? Superb. So that's a good start. Put that back in its bag. Find the right bag. That goes in there. That's just floated off the sprue, that one did. Obviously Lewis had spotted that and he bagged it up for us. And then you've got the centre section, inboard part of the wing where the engines mount. You've got your propellers. Then you've got these really mighty cabane struts that are the main supports for the engines. It's amazing, you've got these huge great engines just on wooden struts. It's scary, really. It's frightening, look at it. When you see the artwork, yeah? Look at that. Really? Are you sure about this? Oh, gosh. Somebody was obviously very good with their calculations about what stresses it could or couldn't take. Yes, so some nice, beautiful figuring there. There's no flash. You know this is going to go together like a Tamiya kit, frankly. They're absolutely gorgeous, aren't they? And then finally, well, not quite finally, because we haven't got the clear part. Then finally, we've got the other sprue with the wings on, and this has also got the crew. Now it only shows 3 men in it. Now is that right? Because does one man have to run back and forth between 2 gun ports, two gun turrets? That seems unlikely. So I would have thought there was at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it crew 5? Let me just check on this just to see if it tells us anywhere with any technical data, which I didn't check. Crew doesn't say the crew. Doesn't tell us. Maximum speed 165 miles an hour. So this isn't going to win the any speed trophies, I'm afraid, for Mitchell, is it? But that wasn't its job, of course. That's a nice function. But look at that, you've got that elevator at the back. That looks really nice. Well, it's not the elevator, sorry, that's the horizontal stabiliser. Elevator's the bit we saw, the brown one in the bag. Got your Vickers guns here. They're a little bit warped, or is it my imagination? They look a little bit odd. It might be a bit warped. And then you got your ladder. They've done a nice job with this. I'm not saying it's wings or anything, but it's not bad at all. This the texturing of the ribs and the stretching over the sort of formers and the ribs of the slight. There's a slight issue there, isn't there? Is that a slight fading out of the detail where there's been a. Actually, if I'm honest, if you put that at an angle, you can't see it. It's only when you see it flat on. I think it's a. Oh, there is a bit of a flaw. It's on the other side, isn't it? See that? Bit odd. Slight flaw in it, perhaps. Not on the other wing. The wing's fine. Yeah, it's like a sink mark. Anyway, there we go. All pretty good, to be honest. Apart from that, I don't think that'll be that noticeable, to be honest. Is that on the top wing or is it on the bottom? It's actually, no, it is on the top wing. Strange that. I wonder if anybody else has got that on theirs. If it's in the actual tool. And then last but not least, we have got our clear parts with the little glass house. All the little windows. Yeah, it's quite nice actually. For a Matchbox, that's a really nice bit of clear sprue. Excellent. So there we have it. That's the Supermarine Stranraer seaplane. Obviously these were used for rescuing pilots in times like the Battle of Britain, things like that. They'd also be used as observation, marine observation and spotting, looking out for submarines near the, not out in the Atlantic obviously, but more, home water shall we say. Yeah, it's a nice kit actually. Just that little bit of sink mark on that wing. It may not look as bad when it's painted up, in fairness. It's not terrible, it's just a little bit of a glitch. Very unusual Matchbox. Very unusual. Once or twice, but you don't see them very often. And there we have it in that bag, which has been very carefully done by Lewis. Thanks to him. An absolute star. Thank you, sir. And we think we get to enjoy this. They get rolled out of the secret warehouse. It has the lost arcs in it. Every year they get rolled out, don't they? I'll talk about that at the end. You can probably predict where that's going to go. There we are then. Lovely. An absolute classic. So that one goes there. And that will go... dun, dun, dun. Get over there behind me. Right, next. The Dauntless. Now, this is an interesting one because a lot of people that have had this kit, several of you have commented to me in the past, that I guess that this is not Tamiya. What I mean by that is, if you compare this to a Tamiya kit, you know, the Spitfire for example, you see that it's quite crude compared to what you get from a 32nd scale Tamiya kit. The difficulty Matchbox, I think, had was the tooling. At that time, they were really just upscaling a 72nd scale kit, and you can see that. You'll see it in here. The parts are just much bigger, but there's not a great differential in the way that it's tackled. The part count is very similar to a 72nd scale kit, really. It doesn't add any sophistication. It doesn't really add anything to the charm of those smaller kits by going up a scale. Going up 2 scales, isn't it? And some people do get a bit grumpy about this, which I can understand. But you know, even in its day, it was relatively still very affordable kits. They weren't, yes, they weren't pocket money anymore, but they weren't, you know, like a Tamiya Spitfire now is 120, 125 pounds. The Mosquito you can pay 200 pounds for quite easily. There it is up on the wall there. It's not really comparable, you know, apples with apples. These were still made to a price. I honestly think that this is not the reason we lost Matchbox kits, but I think they were a little bit underpriced, and I think they could have charged a fraction more. I think 5 to 10% more than they were charging. Certainly 5% they could have charged, and nobody would have complained because they still had so many things going for them. And they were a bargain, really, and they made things like Airfix and Frog and others look a bit expensive, and Revell, certainly. Revell were cheap. Anyway, so the Dauntless, let's stop theorising and talk about the specifics. So here you go. We've got the US Navy and Marine dive bomber of World War II. Featured heavily at the Battle of Midway, of course, which was pivotal to the fortunes of the US in the Pacific War. On the side we have got is it a Cyclone? Cyclone engine? Is it? It's not the Wasp, is it? Wright Cyclone, yeah. Wright Cyclone GR 1820 radial engine. There it is, your Wright Cyclone. You've got dive, you've got a big 1,000-pound bomb and dive, flaps and yoke. And then you've got 3 options. One of them is a French Air Force option. In Air France, you've got New Zealand. Sorry, this is with the Royal Navy, in fact, in New Zealand. And then you've got the US forces in the Pacific, 1944. On the other side, you get a little bit of an idea of what it's going to look like when it's finished. Looks like we've got blue, dark blue, light blue and white for the look of it. And it says it has a detailed cockpit. Well, I'll be the judge of that if you don't mind. Because I'm not sure about how detailed it's going to be. We will see. That remains to be seen. Let's have a look then. Now these often come, people do look after these, you know, so they often come with things like a bit of... a lovely bit of bubble wrap. This has been done well. I've got to say, they've done very well. Oh yes. So we've got dark blue stroke grey colour, the main fuselage, and also those parts. That's a lighter grey. Quite a good choice of colours actually, in fairness. Better than bright orange and yellow that we had on others. For whatever reason. Okay, so we'll get those out one by one. Be a bit careful because there's a little bit of scratching already taken place. I think that's why the person who owned it has put this bubble wrap in. previous owners probably felt like me and thought, ouch, that could have been done better, you know. Oh, we've got a piece. Oh, we've got one of the tail planes is off the sprue. Right, I'm going to remove that box because it's clearly going to be in the way. And that. We'll wrap it all up later. So I probably won't re-wrap this, it might take a bit of time. So we've got one of the tail planes that's clearly off the sprue here. Let's have a zoom in on this. So this is one that's a rogue piece. Very simple, isn't it? It's a single piece, top and bottom. So you see what I mean about upscaling from 72nd scale. You're just getting more plastic and bigger parts, but you know the way they've gone about it, with the exception of the pilot here and the gunner. Okay, they've split them into two, but they're not bad actually. They're not bad. They've got their goggles on. Look, yeah, and they've got some good detail on the safety straps and things, parachute straps. Yeah, it's not too bad. A little bit of flash creeping in on those hands. Don't know if you can see that. Yeah, bit of a halo of flash. See that? You're right, cyclone engine. That's quite nice. Quite like that. And you get your outer ring fitting into the cowling, and you've got the bulkhead. They've done that quite well, in fairness. Perhaps I've been a bit harsh saying they just upscaled it from 72nd scale. That's a bit too strong. But it's not, you know, Tamiya with a couple of hundred parts or anything like that. It's still a fairly straightforward, simple part count. You got your dive brakes here, dive flaps. A couple of 50 cal guns. They look quite good. Oops. There they are, 50 cals. Yeah, it's alright, isn't it? It's not too bad. Let me just pop that away for a second. It might be better if I just wrap them as I go, because if I don't do that, they're going to end up all over the place. Right, let's have a look at the paperwork. First of all, we've got some decals, which obviously goes without saying that they've seen better days. Oh, I've got the other errant tail plane, horizontal stabiliser. So those both go in that bag then. At least we know where it came from. Yes, we think that the decals are probably not at their finest condition right now, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think you probably use those. They look like they've almost welded themselves to the tissue, front tissue paper. But then we have got our... What needs to go in there, Chief? Then we've got our colour guide, and this is... What year is this? Do we have a date? Let's have a look. I'm guessing it's about 79. Let's have a look. 77, in fact. Okay, not far off. It's earlier than I thought. But I said 79 because they've dropped the colour. They're not using the green, which they usually do for these. But anyway, and they're not. They've got two fixed 50 cal guns. Okay, two fixed 50 cals are actually at the front. They don't look like 50 cals. It says movable guns 30 cals, but they actually look bigger on the back. I could be wrong. Anyway, from what they're saying, it's 30 cals at the back and 50 cals at the front. So, colour plan. And again, a little bit disappointed. The concept here is excellent, but the actual execution's not that brilliant in that it's not actually in colour. They've got a very good small parts guide, in all fairness. That's quite helpful. This time, there's a lot of... It's a big kit, this, so there's a lot of more detail. There's a lot of painting to be done on all these guns and things. Instrumentation, the bomb cradle, interior for the cockpit areas, the gear doors, gear bays, and the open dive flaps as well, dive brakes. And on here we get actually a fairly rudimentary colour plan, so there's not a lot going on there, to be honest. But again, it's not in colour, which is in the shape. The actual instructions themselves, not that complex. So you build your two pilots up by putting the front and rear together, and then putting them in their seats. Then you've got your 30 cal guns to go in, and you've got your rudder, which is split into 2 pieces. Putting that in, rest a hook, and mounting your whole cockpit area into there. Tail, you've got the tail hook as I mentioned, you've got the tail wheel. Then you've got your sort of fuel tank area. It's just kind of strange, isn't it? Seems to be a big gap between the fuel tank and the bulkhead. Fuel tank area. Oh, let me zoom you a bit more zoom. There we go. Fuel tank area and this sort of these support. Not supports between the front and rear bulkhead. The rear bulkhead's got the fuel tank on it. Then you've got your engine, right cyclone engine. Then you've got the horizontal stabilisers going in, divider that goes behind the gunner, between the gunner and the pilot, and then popping in your engine, completed engine assembly like so. Then we've got our canopy, which is in, of course, no less than 5 pieces on the Dauntless. This is going to be fun, isn't it? So you're going to have to do a bit of painting. You probably need a mass set for that, to be honest. And then you've got your outer cowlings to cover it all over. Build up your fairly rudimentary wings. There's no movable ailerons or anything. Just the dive flaps, which then go in. There's like a central. What did they call it? How did they phrase it? They called it the yoke. The bomb and the yoke and the central dive flaps. And then you've got these and then you've got these gears to go in. These look like they might again retract if you don't glue them, interestingly. Do not glue. So you've got turning wheels. And then we have got some, not sure what that is really, it's like 2 covers on top of the fuselage. Bringing in your centrally assembled area for your central wing, your dive flaps coming in, bringing in your outer wings. But it's a shame it's not foldable. I thought they could have had it folding. Outer cowlings for the engine, and then last but not least, your bomb and bomb cradle for tossing onto the deck of the Akagi. Here you soar you, Hikaku. What's the other one? They all, quite a lot of those I've just named, I think they all got sunk, didn't they, in the end. And there we have it, that's your Dauntless. Let's see the plastic then. Yeah, as I say, it is a little bit of a sort of a scaled up, you know, it's jumped 2 scales, but you wouldn't know it sort of thing. You know, if you look at the parts and the way that they are conceived, it is a bit 72nd scale style, isn't it? So, let us look at what we have then. So we've got the white bit, which is the upper wing, and the central, is it the upper wing? I can't be right there, that must be the lower wing. Yeah, it's the lower wing, I beg your pardon. So it's the lower wing and the lower centre inboard section of the wing as well. And your dive brakes, these are quite nice actually, aren't they? Let's just get a bit closer on those. Those are alright, aren't they? There's no flash in those holes, that's nicely done. Well moulded. And here's your centre section, complete with the bomb cut out for the bomb to fit. And then we have, yeah, it's just a big chunky old sprue, that is. Huge chunky sprue effect. Pop that in there like so. That can go over there. Then we have got our main fuselage. I like this dark blue, it's nice. I think that's quite appropriate. It's one of the better Matchbox colours, really. Raised panel lines, not sure about that. But they are, what they're actually representing is the raised rivets. So I suppose you can, yeah, it's okay, isn't it, really? There's a lot of lines of rivets that are raised and they just made it a line. You can actually see that from just looking at the artwork if you look at it here. Yeah. See that? Lines of rivets here. Okay, so we won't worry about that too much. Obviously you've got your cowls there. I mean, it's very well moulded, it's very cleanly moulded as usual, you know, there's no flash here. No clean-up required at all, really. Just where you snip it off from those points on the sprue. Just clean up that and that's it. no problem at all. So that's that one. Pop that over there. Just give me a tick. And then we have, sorry, we'll just go to this because it makes more sense. So then we've got the top. This is the top of the wing, inboard section there. And I say it's just a shame they didn't have it folding. We couldn't actually have a folded wing. That would look a lot nicer. It wouldn't have added much cost to the kit. I can't believe that. Might have made it easy for them to mould the sprues as well, because it gives them more options. You know, you've got this great big wasted space on this sprue, haven't you? Look at that. I mean, that's way bigger than my hand, and yet, you know, nothing in it. I'm saying that, no, I'm wrong, aren't I? I've just realised that's actually where these tails were, these horizontal stabilisers, horizontal tail planes were there. That's where they've come from. Okay. But yeah, it's okay. It's just, as I said before, it's really like a 72nd scale that's been upscaled, for being honest about it. So that goes in there like that. Then we have the business end. Some reasonable detail here, actually, slightly better than I was expecting. If you look carefully here, you've got some all sorts of switches and things. It's quite nice, isn't it? Yeah. And you've got like planked flooring, interestingly. I presume it had wooden plank flooring. You got a really great £1,000 bomb here. Look at that monster. I like the tail cone of it. Is that coming two halves? Where's it? Oh yeah, there's the other half. So you've got half there, and then the other half of the tail fins is here. And then we have got our seat. Bit rudimentary at 32nd scale, that one, isn't it? That really is just upscale from 72nd scale. Got some nice prop blades though. Those are okay, aren't they? Those are quite nice. Yeah, quite like those. Then we've got the bomb cradle here in a big V. Got our gear legs look a bit spindly, don't they? Hope that's going to work okay. And you've got your seat armour plating here. Yeah. Got some sort of rivets on it. Yeah, here and there it's got some decent detail. It's just a little bit. It's a bit lacking compared to what we are used to today. So perhaps we're being a bit harsh, really. I mean, this is 1977. We have to bear that in mind when we start talking about Spitfires from 2009. Bit of a different kettle of fish, really, isn't it? You know. So let me just finally, before I wrap it up, let me just finally show you. There we go. Finally show you the clear parts. Let's see what they're like. Oh, this is Tesco. Oh, they're really actually very good. Actually very good. Much better than I was expecting, if I'm honest with you. What do you think? I mean, they're not going to be, you know, competing with ICM and Tamiya, but even so, quite good actually. Quite decent. And as I say, there's 5 pieces here. It's a little bit frosty there. Yeah, there is a little bit of. It's a little bit. This one's a little bit nasty. Here, can you see that frostiness? You look at the clarity of that as I turn it on the top. There's definitely a bit of a glitch there, isn't there? And it's a bit of an inconsistent glitch. If I turn it like this, that behind. Yeah, that's not great. That's the weakest piece. Whether that'll polish out, I don't know. It might polish out actually. It might just be. It doesn't feel very smooth. I think. Maybe get a sanding stick on that and try and polish it out. But overall, it's not terrible. But again, it's 1977. It's a great big, huge canopy, which, you know, the moulding quality and technology then was not quite up to the mark, perhaps, for these sizes of clear parts. To be fair, so I suppose we can't be too churlish about it. Yeah, I don't think it's Matchbox's finest product, that, to be honest. It's not terrible. If I was real fan that wanted a Dauntless. It wouldn't put me off it. It's just a little bit non-premium, shall we say. If I was giving that as a rating, you know, marks out of 10, it's probably a 9, isn't it? An 8.5, 9, really. Anyway, let's not dwell on that for too long. Let us get on to the ones you really want to see. The final two then. Matchbox March 2025, the last two. It's the Spitfire and the ME109. I think we're going to do the Spitfire first, in fairness. I think we'll finish on the ME109. So we've got another beautiful artwork from Roy Huxley here. This is a Spitfire model version that I'd never seen before when it came out. I wasn't aware of the 22 and 24. This came out in 1970. Tell me, come on. When did it come out? 78? 78? 76. I was going to say, I think this was the first one to come out. And it is a lovely bit of art, isn't it? Let's be honest. Would have liked a bit more in the background. And again, this was when they started to mess about making it white in the background. Doesn't work as well as it did. And I thought the first iteration had a bit more detail in the background, actually, from memory. I'm pretty sure it did. I think you can see a control tower. But anyway, you get the full write-up here telling you what you get. Super detailed cockpit, supercharged Griffin engine, detachable engine panels, sliding cockpit canopy, and 3 sets of service decals. On the side, you get a pilot that looks worryingly like Adolf Galland, actually, which is in the wrong aircraft. It could be Stanford Tuck. Sliding hood, blister hood. What do they call these canopies? The Malcolm Hood canopy, is that the one they call it? Malcolm canopy? Malcolm Hood? Detailed Griffin engine, and then you get 3 different choices here. You've got the 80 Squadron at Kai Tak Airport in Hong Kong, the Royal Egyptian Air Force who bought the aircraft. That'll be after the war, 1950s, and then the Royal Auxiliary Air Force 603, the City of Edinburgh in 1950. On the other side, we do get an impression, at least, of what it's going to look like. The colours, it looks like we've got 2 greys and a black to me. And then it says it's got a detailed cockpit. Well, detailed is a relative word, as we know. We will see how detailed it is in a moment. I don't think it's going to be wings detailed, or even ICM detailed, to be honest. So this is the way they normally come, I must say, which is very nice actually. What you get is a tray. You get like a divider. Now we've got our decals there. We'll come to them in a minute. And we've got a proper coloured colour guide, it should be. But then you get this divider that keeps the sprues apart and stops them all rubbing around and scratching each other, which was the way they came in the first issue, which is the way it should be. So we're taking these out. Pop those over there. I'll stick that to one side and we'll look at one thing at a time. Keep it simple. So, it's green range, it should be green. So here we have got our Spitfire PK501, 5 series being the green range, 32nd scale range. This is our colour plan, complete with basic info. 2050 brake horsepower. Really? It really was a powerful engine, that Griffin, wasn't it? 2050 horsepower. Oh wow, didn't know that. I didn't think they got above about 1800, that's incredible. Okay. Maximum speed 454. Holy moly, it's 100 miles an hour faster than the original Spitfires, isn't it? Crumbs. It's like 25% faster, 30% faster. Jeez. Certainly over 30. And then it's got 4 20mm cannons. Yeah. Hispano, 20mm. Yeah, they should have done that, I think, on the Mark 9 Spitfire, but anyway, they haven't developed it enough. 150 gallons of fuel. Anyway, so we've got our colour guide, and you can get any info. Do we get any data? Yes, we do. Just put it in a very strange place. So, let's have a little ready. You'll bear with me and indulge me for a moment. Only one more to go after this. Put my feet up for another year. It says, in 1939, the Supermarine design team started working on a Spitfire variant which was to use the Rolls-Royce Type 37 engine, later to become known as the Griffin. Although delayed by the early war years, eventually 2 prototypes flew in 1942, the Mark 20 and the Mark 21. Development of the Mark 8 airframes produced a variety of Griffin-powered Spitfires, and over 2,000 of these Griffin-powered aircraft were built up to 1948. That's quite a lot, isn't it? These seeing service with 60 squadrons. 60 squadrons of the Royal Air Force. We've only had that today, eh? The Mark 21s to 24 were almost a completely new aircraft, and in fact another name was suggested, but not used. A new wing was designed to carry the 4 20mm Hispano cannons without any alternative armament being possible, and although over 3,000 were ordered, final production was a mere few hundred aircraft. It became obsolete with the jet engine, didn't it, I suppose? Finally, the Mark 22 and 24, which differed only in minor details, introduced the teardrop canopy and revised fin and rudder. The Seafire Mark 47, used by the Navy, with contra-rotating propeller and arrestor gear for deck landing. The Mark 24 was possibly the ultimate in propeller-driven fighter designs ever, and the culmination of the development work that covered some hundreds of variants of the original Spitfire machine, and is considered one of the most elegant single-seater aircraft ever built. Yeah, it does look quite nice, doesn't it? It does look quite nice. So, this is the colour guide. So we've got our... It seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So this is the showing you all the small parts that you need to detail up with your paint guide. Top of the engine with all the exhausts, main engine block. Oh, you got everything. Got supercharger. You got the what's that? The starter, instrument panel, control yoke. Well, stick, isn't it? I guess. Your fuel tank, front bulkhead, the pilot, seat, the engine bearers. What's that? That's the landing gear control. The door. That's quite good, isn't it? It's quite a few parts. You've actually got bullets. You've got bullets to be painted as well. Look, check that out. Here, all the bullets to be painted. You've got your canopy, surround frame. You've got here the propellers, gear, the gear legs, I should say, and the gear. Hispano cannons. Interior of the fuselage and the gear doors. On the other side, it's the general paint guide, which is the Egyptian Air Force. They're a bit naff, these. I've got to be honest. I'm not too impressed with that. I think they could have done a better job with this. You know, you look at Tamiya taking this concept and taking it right to the nth degree, haven't they? I just think they could have shown them in the actual colours. That's all. Does look like a photocopy, doesn't it, from print to print a little bit. And then your 2 RAF options. So you've got the Kaitac RAF 80 Squadron, complete with stripes, like invasion stripes, strangely. And then you've got the Royal Auxiliary Air Force at City of Edinburgh Squadron 1950 there. That is that one. We've got some decals to look at that look surprisingly good, actually. They look surprisingly good. That's what it's called, PK. It sounds like a reference to the Matchbox kit, doesn't it? And you've got these like invasion stripe type things. They're not actually invasion stripes as such. I think they're just ID stripes, aren't they? Some nice detailing here though. Look at this. You've got some of your stencils across the roundel there. Interestingly. And again, you've got your squadron markings here. Yes, quite nice decals, actually in reasonable condition to be fair. They don't normally last that well. Get the feeling this one's not been in the sun anywhere. But look at that, look how yellow it goes, this glassine paper, this glassine tissue, isn't it? Alright, so in terms of our instructions then, we'll start with our Griffin engine. I'm going to build up the Griffin here. supercharger on the back, and putting on your feeders and your starter motor at the side, and cooling ring for the hydraulics and everything. Fuel tank. Bringing it all in, you've got a fuel tank. You've got several fuel tanks actually. You've got a fuel tank behind the pilot and one in front. So it's got, that's interesting. It's got more fuel tanks than we're used to. Various controls. You've got your horizontal stabilizer and your rudder. Instruments going in here, and your stick. And then you're going to bring your pilot in, similar to the Dauntless. The pilot's in two parts. Well, it's in four parts if you include the arms. His torso's in two parts. Got a parachute he sits on. Looks like might have a bit more detail on the seat in this case. Again, if you've built a 32nd scale Tamiya one, it's not going to be quite like that, I don't think. And what's that? Oh, that's the rear. What is that? Okay. Yeah, I've gone out of sequence, by the way. I've read this actually. So it's, you go along like that, and then you go down and across like this. So then you're going to put on your tail planes and your rudder and your canopy. I'd leave that to the end if I were you. And the canopy frame and the door, separate door. That's quite good. Then you've got your separate cannons. That's good actually. Cannons and the ammo feed belts, and the frame for the cannon mounting. That's pretty impressive actually. Then we've got some spars here between the central lower fuselage and the main wings, which is good. Putting in your gun bays, both sides. Yeah, it's good that it's got gun bays. That's something that even Tamiya didn't offer you. Now there's a thing. And then we're going to build our 5-bladed propeller, which does look really kicking. I remember that was the thing on this model that makes it stand out really. Then you've got your cannon barrels that stick out of the wing. Your gear coming together, radiators. You've got your fillets, aerodynamic fillets between the wing and the fuselage. And then we're going to mount our Griffin engine here, its engine bearers. Put the cowlings on, put your prop in, prop and spinner in. And then finally, you mount your gun barrels, and you put in your radiators and your gear. And your chin radiator, oil radiator. Wow, okay, but actually it doesn't look bad, does it? I'm quite interested to see whether it matches my memory or not. I did build this once, in about 1977 I think. Summer of 77, probably. Clear parts, I have to be honest, are not bad. Probably wants a little bit of a polish, but it's not at all bad. I think it's better than that Dauntless was. You got the clear, like the Malcolm hood type thing, blister hood, and the yeah, it's not bad that actually. The windscreen looks quite nice, doesn't it? It's quite decent. Not sure what all that's about. Observation, is that an observation window underneath? Didn't notice that in the instructions. Quite nice clear parts in fairness. I think those are fairly decent. That is a good start. Let's have a look at the rest of it and see if it can keep up the pace. Can I keep up the pace? Gosh, I've done a lot of hours of recording for these videos, I'll tell you what. You all owe me a £5, just saying. I'll be sending you all an invoice, I know where you live. Right, here we go then. So as I said, it comes in this rather nice system of separators, so we'll go with the left side first I think. It looks quite decent actually. Get those two out and we'll come back to it in a second. Yeah, I think I don't want to mix them up, I want them to go back as they were. So, we'll look at the wings first of all. Now remember, we've got these gun bays, which is a really nice thing, and something you don't even get with the 32nd scale Tamiya. You do on the Mustang, but you don't on the Spitfire for some reason. And it's really decent, to be fair. It's a shame that at this scale you would think that they would have a separate aileron and flaps. So that's a little bit of a letdown. You know, they've gone and put gun bays in, which are quite complicated for them to do, and the simpler thing, which is having flaps and ailerons, they haven't bothered with. Seems a bit strange. Those fillets are nicely done. They're very nicely shaped, aren't they? I like that. Very cool. Yeah. You've got one piece. Oh no, they're not one piece. They're actually separated. That's good. So you've got two halves of the horizontal stabilizer. That's quite nice. You've got the blisters for the gun ports, or the cannon's ammunition drum sits in the blister. You've got a parachute here. That's quite good, isn't it? We've got a parachute for the pilot there. That's okay. Yes, quite like that. That's all right. That one there. Then we've got the fuselage. Oops, come back a bit. Fuselage. Yeah, it's okay actually. It's okay. It's just that you got, you know, these slightly trench-like panel lines. Arguably, they work better at this scale than they do on the 72nds, I've got to say. It doesn't now look as extreme and sort of unsightly. It kind of becomes a little bit more scale-like, in all fairness. You got this little hatch detail on the side, radio hatches and things. You've got that very big protruding spinner. 5-bladed prop spinner. And it's all very aero, isn't it? You've got quite good a smooth aero. Bulging panels for the cowling. And you've got your bulging for your cylinder heads. You've got the Griffin cowling covers here. And you've got your rudder. Quite a pointy sort of tail and rudder on this, isn't it? Very good. Okay, that's good. That's good. Bear with me 1 second. Then we have got more of those I need to get out. Then we've got the rest of the wing. Zoom you back a little bit here. Rest of the wings here. Lower wing. And we've got the engine blocks. Let's start with the engine block. Engine block here. It's quite decent. You've got your control stick here. This feels a lot better quality and better designed than the Dauntless did, I think. It's just lacking in the flaps and the ailerons, isn't it? I think they could have made a bit more effort there, really. To have them all moulded in is a bit disappointing. But other than that, you have actually got separate halves for your vertical horizontal stabilisers, which is quite decent. You've got a fair bit of detail around the engine. You've got the cooling collar for the coolant there. Yeah, that's quite nice. So that's that one. Then we've got some black plastic coming, and here we have got our. Now we're getting into the engine, the nitty gritty. So you got your Griffin top of the engine, complete with exhaust stubs. A bit disappointing, the exhaust stubs, if we're honest, because if you look, they're not hollow, they're just flat-ended. See that? They're just flat-ended. So to make them look realistic, you're going to need to drill them out, which is a bit of a pain, really. I'm just thinking that this is, again, is that... Whoops. It's that scaled-up effect from being almost like a 72nd scale that's been zoomed up a bit. And you've got your pilot. He looks quite decent. It's actually not bad, you know, that pilot. In terms of detail. Just take a look at this. People say that the heads always look a bit disproportionately large, which you might be right. I don't know. But there's some good detail there in terms of his sou'wester life preserver and his belts and things. You know, I mean, the Matchbox are very softly moulded, but that's quite well done, in fairness. And then we've got the seat, which again has got a little bit of detail in it, which we didn't really see with the Dauntless. Here we've got the framework for the canopy frame on which it slides forward and back. Here we've got the rudder pedals and the instrument panel. These are the braces that go around where the exhausts come out of the engine bearer frame. And then you've got your framework for your gun bay here and here. Which is quite cool, really. And then there are the engine bearers I just mentioned. A bit sink marky, aren't they, actually, if I'm being honest about it. Ah, okay. So that's the wrong side. So this is the side, the external side that you see. It's got some rivets on it. And then you've got the pilot's arms and hands, which are not bad, I'm being honest. Seem quite reasonable. And then you've got a few bits of detail. So we've got the cockpit door here. It's a very small door on a Spitfire, isn't it? And you've got various things like little bits of controls at the side. You've got the supercharger for the engine there. That's pretty good. And then there's not many sprues. There's only actually 5 sprues plus the clear sprue. Not a lot, is it? Really. So this is all the other things. So this now we've got into the propeller blades, of which there are 5, of course. You've got your landing gear legs there. You've got one of the 2 fuel tanks, one there and the other one's over here. So one fuel tank and one an oil tank. It doesn't look big enough to be a fuel tank, does it? I think they are fuel tanks actually. I think the oil tank is a lot smaller normally. I don't know if it shows the oil tank. I think that might be over here. I think this might be oil tank here and here. And then we've got these sort of spars which go across, one there and one on the other side here, that give the strength to the wing. And then you've got these ammunition belts, which actually I think they've done rather well. They look quite decently moulded actually, don't they? 20mm cannon ammo belts. Now those are pretty good, I reckon. I like that. I don't seem to remember it being this good, which is interesting. My memory of it is actually not as positive as what I'm actually seeing here today. So that's a good thing. And then here you got your radiators. Again, the flaps don't open, unfortunately, they're all moulded in. And then over here we've got our 20mm Hispano cannons. So there's a bit of sink marking going on here. There's quite a lot of sink in the moulding, isn't there? Whoops, where am I? Gone the wrong way. Here we go, 20mm cannons. And then there's the outer, shroud of the cannons themselves as they come out of the wing there. It's pretty decent in actual fact. It's not Tamiya or anything, but it feels a little bit better than I remember it. I seem to remember it's very crude now. I know that a lot of people have already commented saying that it's not the best fit, this kit. It's a bit challenging getting it to go together. It's one of those that's going to be a little bit of fun trying to get it all to work. But there we go. So that is your Spitfire Mark 22-24. Just going to try and get those decals back in somewhere. Keep them safe if we can. Interesting indeed. As I said, it's just slightly better than I seem to remember it, in fairness. That would be my summary. Now, the last model. I'm not going to say, oh, it's the best one or anything silly like that. Just a personal favourite of mine. I have a bit of an attachment with this one. And that is because I built it at least once. And I famously, of course, I took it to show the model shop owner. I put it on a little diorama base, which I've never done before. And I think I had a soldier with it. I can't remember if I modified a soldier from the Airfix, one of the Airfix multipose kits, 35th. And I think I had a soldier standing next to it, but it certainly had all its crash landed, canopy was off, had a couple of bullet holes in it, and the cowling was dislodged, and had all the propeller blades bent backwards, so it looked like the famous Von Werner photos of the Von Werner crash in Kent. It was like that, you know. So let's have a look at it then. So let's see what you think. Now I've got 2 of these, and this is the better of the 2 of them. There's a little bit of fading on the side, if I'm honest. Just a slight bit of fading, just this side only. as though it's just been in the sunlight. You can see where the green's gone a tad faded, but on the front it's fine. So it's in other words, it's been in a stack like this of kits that have been in a model shop window, I suspect. Anyway, what do we get? We've got the three options here. So you've got Adolf Galland in the Battle of Britain and beyond, France 1941 in this case. Slovakian Air Force, they've got a Slovakian thing going on. It was Romania last time, wasn't it, on the 72nd scale one. That's on the Russian front. And then you've got the Richthofen Squadron, which of course Goering himself had been a member of previously, in France in August 1940. So that bottom one with the squiggly line on it, that is actually the Battle of Britain. You've got detailed cockpit assembly, it says, and your Daimler-Benz 601, a 12-cylinder engine, inverted of course. And then on the other side, what it's going to look like, and it looks like we've got sort of a brown, why brown? A couple of browny colours, and then some black, and a detailed pilot figure, which strangely looks like an RAF one to me. That's got to be wrong, hasn't it? That's an RAF pilot if ever I saw one. Doesn't look like he's a Luftwaffe member at all. Very, very strange. What's the age on this one? What's the date? What's the date? 1976. So this came out at the same time as the Spitfire did. So, interesting. But a firm favourite of mine. It says here, fully detailed cockpit, blah blah blah. This aircraft illustrated, flown by Adolf Galland, who was the top German air ace of the Battle of Britain. He has 82 combat victories to his credit, and hence they're all on the tail of the combat victories. Let's say that the better. Okay, so same setup. Nice looking. I like this white with the aircraft in the green. That looks a lot more upmarket. We've got clear parts. I'll do the same as we did before. I'll pop it over here. Looks like we've got even less sprues, really? Is that true? Are there only 4 sprues for this one? 4 sprues, okay. Right, start with the decals. And yeah, we've got all the decals that should be here, if you know what I mean. Yes, they're all present and correct, including the Czech ones. Sorry, Slovak, but where my thumb is the Slovak squadron. And you've got, this is the Battle of Britain. This is Adolf Galland with Mickey Mouse. Just zoom in on that one. There we go. Mickey Mouse, and then this one is the Battle of Britain one. Richthofen Squadron with the R for Richthofen there. And it's got like a wasp or a mosquito, isn't it? Yeah, they've got the Nazi symbols, etc., which we won't dwell on, but they need to be there. So that's good. Everything's there that should be there. We will then finally last one. This is the final drum roll. The last round. I feel exhausted. I need a holiday. Let's have a look at the colour plan which they've come up with, which should also have our specification on it. We hope. Please. Yes. Again, they put it on the inside, strangely. So it says, in 1934, design work began on aircraft which was to become famous the world over, the MEBF 109E. As production order was not expected, no compromise was made by the designers to production, and therefore the design made full use of the most up-to-date techniques available. It included a fully enclosed cockpit, stressed skin construction, slotted flaps. It's got automatic slats on these, haven't they, as well, I think. Sorry, I've preempted what they're going to say, that's why I've just stopped. It had automatic handley page slots, I think they mean slats. Definitely says slots there, that's definitely a mistake. Retractable undercarriage. Yeah, automatic slats, they pop out at a certain speed, below a certain speed. Retractable undercarriage, and then high wing loading of 24 pounds per square foot. When tests were carried out, the superior performance and handling showed by the BF-109 converted into even the most sceptical opponents And in the definitive evaluation trials in 1936, the Bf-109 was chosen as the new Luftwaffe fighter. Early Mark numbers were used in the Spanish Civil War by the Condor Legion. These models were powered by the UMO 210G engine, driving a two-bladed propeller, but were not fitted with armour plating. However, experience soon showed that some protection was necessary. They thought they were going to have no opposition. There you go. Shows how naive they could be, really. Well, that's just bad planning, isn't it? And with the introduction of the more powerful Daimler-Benz 600 and 601 Bosch fuel-injected engines, as a modification, these extras were added, and the Bf-109E became available from 1939. The E3 introduced a modified canopy and 80 pounds of armour plate, while the E4 provided a modified armament of two fuselage-mounted 7.9mm MG17 guns and two wing-mounted 20mm cannons. Okay, so the two guns in the nose, two cannons on the wing. The Bf-109 was a formidable fighter, and this inspired design made it an aircraft which was at the forefront of its class for many years. Well, yeah, till the Mustang arrived, you know, and the later model Spitfires. Okay, so here we go then. So this is your small, in inverted brackets, small parts guide, paint guide. You got your Daimler-Benz engine. Lots of parts to be painted, including all the wiring, props, supercharger, engine bearers, various knobs and controls, the seat, armour plate behind the seat. I think that's the rudder trim, I think, the wheel. And then we've got pedals, oxygen canister, the pilot, and then over here we've got various parts of the interior of the cockpit walls. And we also have their instruments, control stick, the cannons, that's the machine gun, sorry, that's on the nose, and the cannons on the wings. This is where it outgunned the Spitfire and the Hurricane, of course, with the wing cannons. And then we've got our undercarriage, legs, gear doors, interior of the wings, and inside the cowlings and inside the fuselage. There you go. So that's the paint guide. And then again, slightly disappointing, but yeah, just shows quite a few stencils on this as well. So that's something a bit different that we haven't seen a lot of before. Quite a few stencils, in fact. Yeah. Do not step here. Access here and all that kind of stuff. And there we go, that's the Battle Brick one right there, in fact. Yes. Okay, so that's the colour guide. Then we have the actual instructions. And here we go. So, Daimler-Benz engine first of all. Assembling all that together. Oh, a bit too much zoom, I think there. Assembling all that together. Put your supercharger on. Making sure you've got all the ancillary components, putting in there, the cooling jacket. You've got your tail wheel going in. Then over here we're going to, make sure I go the right way this time, assemble the pilot, the seat and all the trim wheels, armour plate, mount it all in with the stick into the cockpit. You've got your forward firing 7.9mm machine guns, and mounted on what looks like it's like a carrier with all the ammo boxes in it. And then we've got the top of the instrumentation cowling. Then you've got your rudder and your horizontal horizontal tailplanes and the elevators. Over here, got the instrument panel, complete with the gun sight going in. It'll be a Revi gun sight, won't it? Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? This assembling all the cockpit together. You're bringing the gun bulkhead with all the guns on. Into the main bulkhead that connects it to the instrument panel, putting in your tail wheel and then the oxygen canister, etc., and then bringing it all together and mounting it within the two halves of the fuselage. Then we've got the famous sort of cabane struts that support on the 109E only because they dropped it later, didn't they? I think they made it a bit stronger, but they had these like cabane struts supporting the tail planes. Horizontal stabilisers, got that going in there, and then you got a couple of mountings for the undercarriage. I think that is underneath. Over on the next page, you're into the wing, putting your cannons in, complete with their ammunition drum. Then you've got your the radiators coming in here with the cowling, and then assembly of the gear and the wheels and tyres, gear legs and the gear doors. Now we've got our cannon, of course, fires through the... Didn't mention that, did it? Did it? Didn't seem to mention the cannon that fires through the propeller spinner on the 109. That didn't seem to be mentioned. I'm going to go back and check this because I'm not happy about that. It seems odd that they didn't mention that when we talk about armament. Yeah, it doesn't mention it. How very odd. It doesn't mention the nose-mounted cannon. So it actually had 3 cannon. And yeah, you're going to then bring in your canopy in 3 parts, exhaust going on, bringing in the wings, the central sort of empennage of the underneath of the central section of the fuselage, and then you're going to mount your assembled engine. I mean, you put the bearers on, then you bring it into the main fuselage assembly, like so. It looks good, doesn't it, this? It looks nice. And then you're going to put your cowls on around where your guns are, the gun cover cowls, and the main engine cowl, complete with the slots cut out for the cannon, the machine guns to fire through. Attaching your spinner and propeller onto the main drive shaft from the engine, which of course has the cannon firing up the centre of it. And then finally you've got these little pitos and the counterbalance weights on the ailerons, radio aerial, and the gear, and the radiator, chin radiator for the oil cooler. And that is your 109 finito. 109E. What a beauty! I've got to say I like the look of this so much. These sort of illustrations are good, actually. I think they're excellent. So we put that away. I think with our decals, we're going to have a look at the clear parts first. See what we got here. And they look really nice, actually. They do look quite decent. Probably just due to the number of years they've been rattling around, because they weren't always in a bag. So they probably just need a little polish for 1 or 2 minor scratches, and that's just a sign of its age. I mean, it's 50 years old next year, this kit. So it's 49. Older than some of my viewers are. So you've got to bear that in mind. Give it a little bit of a bit of leeway. Something to do with the manufacture. Yeah, it's pretty decent, to be fair. There's not much wrong with that, really, for a 50-year-old clear part. I think it's pretty decent, really. And of course your antenna aerial goes through there. That's very nice. I'll pop that away, like so. Okay. Then we will look at, just bear with me 1 second, I'll get this out of the box. Here we go. So this is is that the upper or the lower wing? Not quite clear, actually. Bring you back a bit, that might help. So you see what's going on. Just trying to orientate myself slightly. It says on the separator, it says PK501/2. Yeah, so of course it's the upper wing. That's stupid of me. It's obviously the upper wing because there's no gear door in it. Stupid boy. So there we go. So that's our 109. Now they've actually got, look, they've got the cutout for the aileron. So you can see me complaining about the Spitfire was kind of legitimate, and the Dauntless. This time we've got a separate aileron, as you can see here. Well, that's what we should have at 32nd scale, really. Also got nice sort of separate tyres. We've got separate horizontal stabilisers. All your radiators are here. A bit. All your radiator detail. You've got your trim wheels. You've got your 3-bladed propeller, three blades. Here's your sort of armour plate section that goes behind the seat. Whoops, careful, don't put off the sprue, dude. And then we've got, obviously got the wheels, just spin that around a bit. Here's the actual wheels, which look nice. And you know, it's good that they didn't go for rubber tyres, they look far better in plastic actually. Oh, what's happened to this? Got some discoloration on that. It's very strange. It's almost like mould or something. Oh, it comes off, no problem. It's just very strange that. We'll look at the good side. I'll clean that off after. Bit of IPA, I'll remove that, no problem. There's your cabane struts for your rear tail planes. Yeah, very nice. Let's go have a look at the second one. So now we're going to look at the underside of the wing, and this will also include all the engine parts. So here's your Daimler-Benz engine. Looks pretty nice, doesn't it? And then you've got your lots of bits of instrumentation, you've got your gear doors. Obviously you've got the lower wing. Lower wing here. And again you've got the cutout here for the aileron. That's your elevator on one side and on the other side here. And your horizontal stabilisers, tail planes there. Engine bearers in the middle there. Yeah, it's a nice sprue. Yeah, some fair detail on it. It's not bad. It's softly moulded, but it's not at all bad. It's got better detail than the Dauntless had. And then we get to the real meat and potatoes here because we've got the fuselage. So a little bit scratched, nothing major. Just wants very minor polish for the sanding stick. But we've got our rudder, which comes in two parts, two halves. There it is. That's starboard, that's port. And we've got our cowlings over here for the area around the gun bay on the nose. There's the main cowling, which I think looks really nice on this kit actually. The main cowling here that goes around the engine, and it's got the cutouts, grooves for the guns to fire through. It doesn't have to fire through the propeller, of course, because it's got this cannon that fires. The cannon actually fires through the. Here, sorry, just realised. The cannon fires through the spinner itself, so it doesn't have to fire through the propeller. So it's up the centre. And unlike the 72nd scale version, we even have the hole cut out this time, which I think is a good thing. That looks nice. You've got the central boss there for the central boss for the propeller. You've got the pilot, Adolf Galland. He's got a chubby face. I'm not sure. Still not convinced they got the pilots right on this one. Let's just have a look at that in more detail. There we go. Yeah. Yes, it's fair detailed, isn't it? It's fairly detailed. And we've got his arms over here. Where are they? There. Hands and arms. Got the back of the spinner here. Rear plate of the spinner. It's really nice, isn't it? And here's your fuselage. That's where your exhausts come out at the front, of course. That's the main central fuselage area. Radio access. And the tail. Yeah, I like it. It's a nice kit actually. I quite like this one. So tempted to build one. I've got one that's a bit scruffy and has got a couple of parts off the sprue, so I'm very tempted to have a go one day. Yeah, and you know, build it. What? Build it? What are you saying? God almighty, God forgive you, so may God forgive you. What a stupid thing to say when it's a 1977 original in the original box. No, it's not sensible, is it? What we really need, but by the way, as I'm recording this, it's just been announced today. It'll be old news by the time you're watching it. It's just been announced that Qatari are going to release their latest kit's going to be a Mark 1 Hurricane, 32nd scale. Fantastic, and it just makes me wish again. I stand by my earlier comments on this. I've been asking for Airfix to do a Hurricane. Well, they may have missed the boat really, but obviously that would be 24 scale. I wouldn't complain if they did it, to be honest. I'd still buy one. But it does still beg the question of why Qatari went for this K9 version of the 109, BF109 instead of the E, this one. Because if they came out with an E, I would jump at that and I'd definitely build it. You know, I'd definitely build it. This is a classic and should be treated as such. It's rare, and you won't go to heaven if you build one of these unless it's in a destroyed box. Remember, I warned you. Don't complain on Judgment Day when you'll be thinking about these words of mine forever. Now then. Supercharger for the Daimler-Benz engine. Got the pilot's parachute. We've got our nose machine guns that are in the nose, just ahead of the cockpit. Here we've got our cooling pipes for the Daimler-Benz engine. Top of the, the bottom I should say. Well, it is the top, isn't it? Because they invert the engine, but it's actually the bottom of the engine in a Spitfire. But anyway, and a Merlin. And you got the other part, propeller boss. What else have we got? Where are those other cannons? Here are the cannons that are in the wing. Where my finger is. These are the wing cannons. Got the radiator, the main central radiator cover there under the chin. You got the cooling collar there for the front of the engine. Instrument panel. And lots of little detail bits of the cockpit interior. Yeah, it's a really nice kit, I've got to say. You could make this, you know, it's not going to look like a Qatari or something, of course not, but it's a very, very decent kit, this, and I think it's maybe a fraction better than the Spitfire. I like them both though, to be fair, but it's a lot better than the Dauntless. I thought the Dauntless was a bit of a letdown in some respects. I don't think they put enough detail into that one. So it's pretty good. It's pretty decent, to be honest. So I'm going to pop that back in here, if you just indulge me for a moment, and then I'll have our rounding up of the whole situation, really, I think. And we will wind up Matchbox March for another year, which is kind of sad, really, isn't it? I've been enjoying this. Some of you may have heard me comment in the previous video that my wife was saying, I was saying what hard work it was to do these videos for you guys. What toil it was, and she said, what a load of rubbish, you're like a kid in a sweet shop. As soon as you get these boxes out, you go all doughy-eyed and start grinning like a little boy. Now I'm sure I'm not alone in that. I suspect many of you watching are feeling that way as well. So there we have it. There we have it. Oops, got things flying around that I've knocked over. So that's our Matchbox BF109E. Matchbox Messerschmitt BF109E, I should say. From Adolf Galland, which I thought was absolutely terrific. Really enjoyed that one. You'll have noticed that there's obviously been a heck of a lot of kits that I've actually brought out for you to see. Box after box after box. I was saying the other day, a few episodes ago, I'd got this fancy box out, and it says on the side of it, this one struck me because it was very easy to read, and it said Lost Art number 49. Yeah, so I guess it goes without saying. It goes without saying that you probably know what's coming next, really, in that you're probably wondering, some of you, exactly what will happen next. So I'm going to show you what's going to happen next. If you indulge me for a moment, I will give you a clue of what the procedure is. I think you probably know it. I think you may remember this. You might just be familiar with it. Yep, that's it folks. Matchbox March is over for another year, and they all have to be taken back to the secret location stash warehouse by the US military who look after that for me. Great expense. They are going to not see the light of day. Like Count Dracula, they get back in their box and they're not seen again for another year. Unless I'm tempted to bring them out. However, one or two of you, I must say, there will be a further show or two, because one or two of you have actually sent me a couple of kits coming. Bobby has sent me a couple of kits, including the Walrus, which is one we haven't seen, or I haven't seen anyway. So that will be coming in the not too distant future. So there will be sort of a supplementary episode. That's the end of my sort of presentation of the Matchbox kits, the Lesney original Matchbox kits that we all sort of love so much. Just going to bring this one in as well. I'll have that one on top. There you go. Two of the favourites there. And as I said, just to sum up really, I think it's something that should be celebrated, and as I say, if it brings people pleasure, and showing these to people, so many that I've got that are kind of mint, is what makes my collection a bit unusual, I think. It took a long time. It took about 12, 13 years to collect them, and it costs a lot of money. Yeah, the Matchbox kits alone are probably worth a couple of £1,000, I guess. Maybe slightly less, but certainly between £1,500 and £2,000. But it's not about that. It's actually just being able to find the right ones. It's not really what they cost. It's locating them. It's really hard to find anything that really matches the standard that's required. It's quite tricky. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed Matchbox March as I presented it to you. You found this interesting. I think that, you know, as I said at the beginning, I had my little rant and went off tangent, a bit of a tangent. I think that, you know, there's a lot to be said for. They're relatively simple things, really, aren't they, in the wider scheme of things. You know, it's not something fancy electronic advanced stuff like that, you know. I mean, there's me talking about Matchbox March and my Matchbox stash. Well, one of those, the latest one of them, probably costs as much as my entire stash of Matchbox kits. If I had to give up one or the other, I think I'd rather give up the phone. Because I think these will bring you pleasure for years. Look, you've seen the pleasure that I've had and that you've had watching me go through them. And that speaks for itself, really. And it brings back those memories, as I said at the beginning, sort of repeating myself, but it brings back those wonderful memories of childhood. And no kits, I mean, I love model kits generally, as people know, of course. But there are no kits that bring back those childhood memories with a more fuzzy glow than these do, I've got to say. They were a revelation, and you know, Airfix and others were producing some fairly average quality kits at the time. They had beautiful artwork too, but the rest of it didn't match. And I think that Matchbox did make them raise their game quite a lot, and I think Airfix significantly improved toward the end of the 70s, directly because they had such fantastic competition here. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this as much, watching it as much as I enjoyed producing it. Thank you very much for all your time, those of you that watched all the way through. And I just want to say, until next March, I say there will be a couple of others, just other people are sending me one or two, but from my own collection, which goes back into the big warehouse, under great protection, obviously. That's it for this year, I'm afraid. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you got some pleasure out of it, as much as if you get anything like the pleasure I've got out of doing it, then I think it was all worth it for all of us. And until next time, keep collecting Matchbox kits. Don't be building them. Don't take part in that pagan festival. I've told you about that before. It's disgusting. It's not that I'm against people building kits. It's just the very originals. I get very jumpy about it because, as I said, you can never get them back. You can never get them back. And, you know, given how much you've enjoyed watching these, I think that shows that there's a value to them. Anyway, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again in the near future with other stuff. And until next time, thanks ever so much for joining me. Take care of yourselves, stay well, stay safe. Thanks a lot, and until next Matchbox March, thanks a lot, and bye for now.